I was alone in the communications bunker at Fob Falcon. Night shift, just me and the steady hum of equipment. The clock on the wall read 1:58, 2 more hours till my replacement showed up. I'd settled into the routine, checked the frequencies, logged the silence, repeat. Nothing ever happened on Tuesday nights. That's why they put the new guys on this shift. The radio crackled at exactly 200 hours. I nearly knocked over my coffee reaching for it. "This is Fob Falcon Communications, over," I said, voice rusty from disuse. There was static, then a woman's voice came through speaking Arabic. My 2 years of language training kicked in automatically. She was saying something about being trapped with a wounded American soldier. "Can you identify yourself? What is your location?" I asked in Arabic, grabbing my logbook. "I am with your soldier. He is injured. Cole Kelly, he needs medical assistance." Her voice was flat, too calm for someone with a wounded man. Something felt off. People in emergencies don't sound like that. All monotone and robotic. They're usually panicked, breathing hard, talking too fast. I wrote everything down. Time of transmission 0200. Female caller. Claims to be with Cole Kelly. Voice unusually calm. No background noise. "How is he injured? Can you describe your location?" I asked, keeping my own voice steady. "We are north of Al Mahmoudiya. Building with blue door. He is bleeding." I reached for the patrol roster, flipped through it while keeping the woman talking. Asked her questions about landmarks, nearby roads, anything to pinpoint location. Found the page I needed. Shit. Cole Kelly was indeed on patrol in that sector, with Peyton Walker and 2 others. "Can I speak with Sergeant Kelly?" I asked. "He cannot speak. He is unconscious." I tried reaching Kelly's unit on their frequency. Nothing but static. "This is Fob Falcon to Bravo 2, come in Bravo 2. I repeated the call 3 times. No response. I grabbed the internal phone and dialed the command post. "Lieutenant Alexander, this is Baldwin in comms. I've got a situation." I kept it brief. "Strange call, woman with Kelly, can't reach the patrol." "I'll be right there," Alexander said. "Keep her talking." The radio crackled again before I could respond to Alexander. "Your soldier is changing," the woman said. Her Arabic was perfect, too perfect, like she'd learned it from a book. "What do you mean, changing?" I asked. "Black fluid is coming from his eyes. It is beautiful." My stomach dropped. "What did you say?" "Black fluid from his eyes, like tears, but thick like oil." I wrote it down. Felt sweat beading on my forehead despite the air conditioning. "Ma'am, we have help coming. Can you tell me exactly where you are? Any landmarks?" She started describing the building again, same details as before. Word for word, like she was reading from a script. I tried Kelly's unit again. Nothing. Tried the general emergency frequency. Nothing. Lieutenant Alexander arrived 5 minutes later, face tight with concern. "What's the situation?" he asked, leaning over my shoulder to see the logbook. I briefed him quickly. "Woman claims to be with Kelly. Says he's wounded, bleeding black fluid from his eyes. Can't raise Kelly's unit on any channel." Alexander's expression darkened. "That's not good. Kelly's patrol was checking out reports of insurgent activity. Could be a trap." "The woman's voice is wrong," I said, too calm, and she keeps repeating the same phrases. Alexander nodded. "Keep her talking. I'm assembling a QRF, 20 minutes tops." He left, and I turned back to the radio. "Are you still there?" I asked. "I am here. Your soldier is here. The black fluid is spreading." "Can you help stop the bleeding?" I asked, trying to get any useful information. "It is not bleeding. It is changing. He is becoming like us." That sent a chill right through me. "Like who? Who are you?" "We are the ones who listen. We are the ones who hear." I wrote it all down. Hands weren't quite steady anymore. "How many of you are there?" I asked. "More now. The others are changing too. What others? The rest of the patrol? She didn't answer that, just kept talking about the black fluid, how it moved like it was alive, how it sought the light. I checked the time. 15 minutes had passed since Alexander left. The response team would be getting ready now. "Ma'am, help is coming. Can you move Sergeant Kelly outside where our people can find you easier?" "We will find you," she said. "We always find the ones who hear us." The back of my neck prickled. "What does that mean?" She didn't answer. The radio went silent. I tried reaching her again. Nothing. Tried Kelly's unit again. Still nothing. The bunker suddenly felt too small, too isolated. I got up and paced, 5 steps one way, 5 steps back. Checked the door. Standard procedure was to keep it locked during night shift, but I double-checked anyway. The minutes crawled by. The radio stayed silent. At 02:20, someone knocked on the bunker door. Relief washed over me. Alexander and the response team had to be. They'd come for the exact coordinates before heading out. I unlocked the door and pulled it open. Cole Kelly and Peyton Walker stood there. Both in full gear, weapons hanging at their sides. Both standing perfectly still, and both had black fluid streaming from their eyes. Not just a trickle, rivulets of it thick and shiny running down their cheeks like tar. I stumbled backward. Jesus Christ. Neither of them spoke, neither blinked. The black stuff dripped from their chins onto their body armor. The radio crackled behind me. The woman's voice came through, speaking English now. "They can only hear me now. They only listen to us." Kelly and Walker took a step forward in perfect unison. Their movements were wrong, jerky, mechanical, like puppets. I lunged for the door as they surged forward. Kelly's hand shot out inhumanly fast. I ducked under it, slammed the heavy metal door shut, and twisted the lock. Their fists pounded on the door. Not random strikes, a perfect mechanical rhythm. Bang, bang, bang. I scrambled for the radio. "Command post, this is comms, emergency. Kelly and Walker are at the bunker. They're not right. They're trying to break in." The door shuddered with each impact. The lock wouldn't hold long. "Repeat, this is an emergency. I need help at the comms bunker now." The banging stopped. The sudden silence was worse than the noise. I sat there, phone clutched in my hand, waiting for a response, for help, for anything. Then I heard it. The sound of something sliding under the door. A thin stream of black fluid inching across the concrete floor toward me. The emergency escape hatch. Every bunker had one. I scrambled over to the back wall where a narrow passage led out to the main communications center, designed for situations exactly like this, when the front entrance was compromised. I yanked open the hatch just as the pounding on the door started again. The whole frame shook, metal screeched against metal. They were going to get through. I squeezed into the passage and pulled the hatch shut behind me. It was tight, barely wide enough for my shoulders. I had to crouch walk through absolute darkness, feeling my way along the concrete walls. The sounds of the door being beaten down faded behind me. After about 20 feet, I hit the exit hatch. I pushed it open and climbed out into the main communications center. The room was lit up with screens and equipment, but something was wrong. "River? Sage?" I called out. They were both there, but they weren't responding. River Gregory was on the floor next to her workstation. Sage Dixon was slumped in his chair. They were both convulsing, and that same black fluid was streaming from their eyes. "Shit," I backed away. "River, Sage!" Nothing, just those mechanical spasms. The fluid ran down their faces like motor oil. I needed to find Lieutenant Alexander or Captain Norton, the barracks. That's where Norton would be. I had to warn everyone. I ran for the door, keeping as far from River and Sage as I could. Their heads turned in unison to follow my movement. They didn't speak, didn't blink, just watched me with those black streaked eyes. Outside, the base looked normal. Quiet night. Stars overhead. But something felt very wrong. I sprinted toward the barracks, staying in the shadows between buildings. I nearly ran straight into Noah Mendoza coming around a corner. "Whoa," he said, stepping back. "Baldwin, what's going on? I just heard Lieutenant Alexander call for security at the comms bunker." "Noah, listen to me," I said, grabbing his arm. "Something's happening. Kelly and Walker, they're infected or something. Black stuff coming out of their eyes. They attacked me in the bunker. Same thing's happening to River and Sage." Noah frowned. "What are you talking about?" "I just saw Kelly and Walker 10 minutes ago heading toward the comms center. They seemed fine." "No, they're not fine. They're dangerous, and whatever's happening to them, it's spreading. We need to find Captain Norton." "Baldwin, slow down. This doesn't make any sense. What black stuff? Are you—" Noah's radio crackled to life on his belt. That same woman's voice came through, calm and flat. "We are the ones who listen. We are the ones who hear." Noah's eyes went wide. He clutched his head and dropped to his knees. "Noah," I reached for him. "Get away," he managed to say before his whole body went rigid. I backed up as black fluid began to seep from his tear ducts. Within seconds, it was streaming down his face. His body relaxed, and he stood up with those same jerky mechanical movements I'd seen from Kelly and Walker. I turned and ran. Behind me, I heard Noah's footsteps following at a steady pace. Not running, just walking. Methodical, relentless. All across the base, I heard radios crackling to life. The same message playing everywhere. We are the ones who listen. We are the ones who hear. Soldiers dropped to their knees all around me, black fluid streaming from their eyes. Some tried to fight it, clutching their heads, screaming. But it only took seconds before they went quiet and stood up with those same robotic movements. I had to find Captain Norton, had to warn him. I ran toward the officers' quarters, dodging between buildings. Everywhere I looked, more soldiers were transforming. I burst into the officers' building and ran down the hall to Norton's quarters. I pounded on the door. "Captain Norton, sir!" The door opened. Norton stood there in his t-shirt and pants, clearly just woken up. "Baldwin, what the hell?" I spotted the radio on his desk behind him, just starting to crackle. I lunged past him and slapped it off the desk, smashing it against the wall. "Sir, don't listen to the radios. Don't let anyone with black fluid near you." To his credit, Norton didn't waste time asking questions. He grabbed his sidearm from his bedside table. "Explain, quick." I told him everything. The woman on the radio, Kelly and Walker, what happened in the bunker, River and Sage in the communications center, Noah just now. "It's spreading through the radios somehow," I said. "That voice plays and then they change." Norton nodded once. "We need to—" A massive explosion rocked the building. The lights flickered and went out. Emergency lighting kicked on, bathing everything in red. "That came from the armory," Norton said. He was already pulling on his boots. "They're arming themselves." We moved to the window. Outside, chaos had erupted. The possessed soldiers were attacking the uninfected. Gunfire echoed across the base. Another explosion lit up the night as a vehicle went up in flames. "We need to evacuate everyone who's still themselves," Norton said. "Get to the motor pool, that's our best chance." We moved through the base, gathering uninfected personnel as we went. Norton was calm, decisive. He organized the survivors into groups, keeping us moving toward the motor pool. Every few minutes, we'd lose someone else when a radio or phone would suddenly activate near them. "It's the communications tower," I said as we reached the motor pool. About 30 uninfected personnel had made it. "Whatever this is, it's using our own communications network to spread. We need to take out the tower." Norton looked at me, then at the tower standing tall at the edge of the base. Its lights blinked in the darkness. "You're right," he said. "But we'll need to get close. Set charges at the base." "I'll go," I volunteered. "I know where the structural weak points are." "I'll go with Baldwin," said Harrison Weber, one of our combat engineers. "Me too," said Teresa Cortez, another engineer. "I know explosives better than either of you." Norton nodded. "Take what you need. The rest of us will secure these vehicles and prepare to move out once the tower's down." We gathered the explosives and equipment we needed. Weber, Cortez, and I moved out, keeping to the shadows. The possessed soldiers seemed organized now, moving in formation, securing buildings. They were communicating somehow, but not by talking. We reached the base of the tower without being spotted. Weber and Cortez worked quickly, setting the charges while I kept watch. "Almost done," Cortez whispered. She reached for her pack to get the last detonator. Her radio crackled. "No!" I lunged for it, but I was too late. The radio blasted that voice. That same damn voice, and Cortez's eyes went wide. Black stuff leaked from the corners, just like with the others. Weber yelled something and dropped the detonator. I grabbed my rifle and backed away. Cortez turned to me with that blank stare. The black tears streaked down her face, but she didn't make a sound, just stared. Weber tried to run, but she was faster. Way faster than she should have been. She caught him in 3 steps and grabbed his arm. The black stuff, whatever it was, moved from her hand onto his skin like it had a mind of its own. I didn't stick around to watch. I bolted down the slope back toward where Norton and the others were waiting with the vehicles. Gunfire erupted behind me. Not at me. Somewhere else on the base. The whole place was falling apart. "What happened?" Norton demanded when I got to the motor pool. He had about 20 people with him now, all looking scared out of their minds. Cortez got infected, Weber too. The charges are set but not connected. I was breathing hard. "We need to go. Now!" Norton nodded. "Everyone in the vehicles, move!" We piled into 3 Humvees. I jumped in the lead one with Norton and 5 others. The engines roared to life and we tore out of there, heading for the gate. 2 soldiers were at the guard post, both infected. They raised their weapons, but Norton didn't slow down, just plowed right through the barrier. I looked back as we sped away. Fob Falcon was burning. Explosions lit up different parts of the base. Not our explosives, those had never been connected. This was something else, maybe ammo cooking off, or the infected deliberately destroying things. Hard to say. "What the hell was that?" one of the guys asked. Nobody answered. We drove through the night, pushing the vehicles hard. Nobody talked much. What was there to say? We just watched our base, our people turn into something else. 7 hours later, we reached Baghdad International Airport, where the military had a major presence. The MPs stopped us at the gate, guns drawn until they recognized Norton. They let us through and we were immediately separated. "Security protocol," they said. I got put in a room with 2 intelligence officers who looked like they hadn't slept in days. "Start from the beginning," one of them said, "every detail." So I did. I told them about the radio call, about Kelly and Walker showing up with black stuff coming from their eyes, about how the infection spread through the base, about the woman's voice saying those words over and over. "We are the ones who listen. We are the ones who hear." They wrote everything down, asked me to repeat parts, made me clarify details. I told them 3 times about how the voice came through the radios, how that seemed to trigger the infection. They nodded, took notes, and asked more questions. It went on for hours. By the time they let me go, I was dead on my feet. They put me in temporary quarters and told me not to discuss what happened with anyone. 2 days later, Norton found me in the mess hall. He looked like he'd aged 10 years. "They're covering it up," he said quietly. "Official story is insurgent attack, chemical weapons, mass casualties." "That's bullshit," I said. Yeah, well, that's the line. They've quarantined the area, no fly zone, nobody in or out. He pushed his food around with his fork. They're debriefing the survivors separately, then shipping us all out to different posts. What about... Don't, he cut me off. Don't ask questions, just go along with it. A week later, I was stateside. They flew me to Germany first, then to Walter Reed. The military shrink, Dr. Aubrey Ryan, sat across from me with a clipboard and a sympathetic smile that didn't reach her eyes. Tell me about what happened at Fob Falcon, Specialist Baldwin. I stuck to the official story. Insurgent attack, chemical weapons. I watched my friends die. All technically true, just not the whole truth. She nodded and wrote things down. You're experiencing acute stress disorder. Given time, it may develop into PTSD. She looked up. I'm recommending a medical discharge. I didn't argue. What was I going to do, go back? Be around radios and communications equipment after what I'd seen? No thanks. The discharge came through 3 weeks later. Just like that, I was a civilian again. I went home to Lexington, Kentucky. My parents were happy to have me back, kept saying how proud they were. They didn't ask too many questions when I woke up screaming, black tears streaming in my dreams. I rented a small apartment downtown, used my savings to buy a bed, a couch, and a bunch of radio equipment. I told everyone I was getting into ham radio as a hobby. Nobody questioned it. Just a vet with a new interest to keep his mind occupied. What I was really doing was listening. Scanning frequencies, monitoring broadcasts, looking for that voice. I kept the volume low. I wasn't stupid, but I needed to know if it was still out there. The nightmares didn't stop. I'd wake up in the middle of the night, sheets soaked with sweat, the echo of that woman's voice in my head. We are the ones who listen. Sometimes I'd think I saw black stuff on my pillow, but it was always just shadows. I got a job at a local electronics store. It paid the bills and gave me employee discounts on more equipment. My apartment started looking like a command center, with antennas rigged up on the roof and monitors showing frequency patterns. My neighbors probably thought I was some conspiracy nut. They weren't entirely wrong. 3 months after my discharge, I was scanning late one night, half asleep in my chair when I heard it. That same flat, emotionless tone, the same unnatural cadence. But this time she was speaking Spanish. I sat up straight, suddenly wide awake. I scrambled to record it, to lock onto the frequency. The message repeated 3 times before going silent. I played it back, translating as best I could with my limited Spanish. The words were different, but the meaning was the same. We are the ones who hear. We are the ones who listen. I traced the signal as well as I could. It came from somewhere near the Mexican border, maybe Arizona or New Mexico. I started monitoring news from that region, looking for anything unusual. Strange behavior, unexplained events, anything. A week later, I found something. A small town paper reported several residents behaving erratically, attacking family members. Local authorities blamed it on a bad batch of drugs. 2 days after that, the town's radio station went off the air. Technical difficulties, they said. I kept digging. More stories started popping up. Isolated incidents at first, then clusters. All within a 100-mile radius of where I'd traced that signal. I started mapping it, tracking the spread. It was happening again. Then I saw it on CNN, a breaking news alert about a terrorist attack at a military outpost in southern New Mexico. Details were sparse, but they mentioned a mass casualty incident and unknown chemical agents. The reporter said the area was under quarantine, with a no-fly zone established. I knew. Same playbook as Fob Falcon, same cover story. That night I packed up my car, loaded my monitoring equipment, clothes, and whatever cash I had. Left a note for my parents saying I was taking a road trip, needed to clear my head. By morning, I was heading west. The drive took 3 days. I stopped only when I had to for gas and food and a few hours of sleep in the car. I kept the radio off, didn't trust it. Used my own equipment to monitor frequencies, looking for any sign of that voice. As I crossed the state line into New Mexico, my dashboard radio clicked on by itself. I hadn't touched it, hadn't even turned the key in that direction. The static cleared, and then I heard her. "Tony Baldwin," she said in that same flat voice. "We've been waiting for you." My hands tightened on the steering wheel. She knew my name. She was talking directly to me, and she was close. I yanked my foot off the gas and pulled onto the shoulder. Gravel crunched under the tires. My heart was going crazy in my chest. I hit the brakes hard and threw the car in park. Dust kicked up around me as the car settled. For a second, I just sat there staring at the radio like it might grow teeth. The highway stretched empty in both directions. Just desert and scrubby plants as far as I could see. No other cars, no buildings. Nothing but me and that voice coming through my speakers. I reached for the radio. Part of me wanted to rip it right out of the dashboard, smash it, throw the pieces out the window, but what good would that do? I'd seen how this thing worked. It wasn't just in the radio, it was in the frequencies themselves. Instead, I turned the volume up. "Who are you?" I said to the empty car. "What do you want?" Static hissed for a few seconds. I wondered if it was gone. Then the voice returned. "I am the voice in the darkness," it said. Perfect English now, not Arabic. "I am the one who speaks." "That doesn't tell me anything," I said. My voice sounded weird in the car. Too loud, too shaky. "What's your name? Where are you?" "Names are not necessary," the voice said. "I have always been speaking. Now I am finding new ears, new mouths." The back of my neck prickled. I remembered Cole Kelly standing outside that bunker door, black stuff leaking from his eyes, moving like a puppet. "How are you doing this?" I asked. "How are you controlling people?" "I do not control. I speak. They hear. They understand. They join." The voice paused. "You heard me, but you did not join. You are different." I shifted in my seat. "What do you want?" "To be heard," the voice said simply. "Everywhere." I thought about that for a second. Thought about what I'd seen happening. The way it had spread through the radios at the base. The way it had followed the frequencies. I'd been tracking reports for months now. Small outbreaks in border towns, then bigger ones, always spreading outward from communication centers. "You're not just in my car radio, are you?" I said. "You're in cell phones, TV stations, internet, everything." "Yes," the voice said. "I find the frequencies. I speak. They hear." I looked at the radio. Smashing it wouldn't make any difference. This thing wasn't just in my car, it was everywhere, in every signal, every broadcast, every frequency. And it was spreading. I started the car again. I'd been heading southwest, following the reports, following the voice to its source, but that wasn't right. I needed to go the other direction. "I need to stop you," I said. "You cannot stop what has always been speaking," the voice replied. "You can only listen, or not listen." I pulled back onto the highway and made a U-turn, east. I needed to go east, to Washington, to someone who could understand what was happening. Someone who could do something about it. "You were at Fob Falcon," I said. "You infected my friends." "They heard me," the voice said. "They understood." "They died," I shot back. "They changed," it corrected me. "They became part of the voice, as all will become." I pressed harder on the gas. The speedometer crept up past 80, past 90. The desert blurred outside my windows. I'd survived for a reason. When everyone else at the base had gotten taken over, I'd made it out. When they tried to cover it up as a chemical attack, I hadn't believed it. When they discharged me, I'd kept looking, kept listening. I understood how it worked now. It traveled through communications, radio waves, signals, and when people heard it, really heard it, something changed in them. They got infected with that black stuff, became part of whatever this thing was. And now it knew my name. It had been waiting for me. The sun was getting low in the sky behind me. I had almost 3 days of driving ahead to reach DC. Maybe more if I avoided stops. I had all my equipment in the back seat, recordings I'd made of the voice, notes about the patterns I'd tracked, evidence. It wasn't much, but it was more than anyone else had. I was probably the only person alive who understood what was happening. The only one who'd seen it start and escaped. The only one who knew it wasn't terrorists or chemicals or any of the other cover stories. It was something else, something that used our own technology against us. Something that had found a way in through our radios, our phones, our computers, and it was spreading fast. "You won't stop," the voice said suddenly. "You will hear me again. You will understand." "I already understand," I said. "That's why I'm going to stop you." The radio went silent. Just static now, but I knew the voice was still out there. Finding more frequencies, finding more listeners, spreading like a virus through our communications networks. I glanced at the box of equipment beside me. My recordings, my proof. I didn't know if it would be enough to convince anyone. Didn't know if I could even get to someone who mattered before this thing spread too far. But I had to try. I'd hunt this voice as long as I lived. I'd find a way to stop it or I'd die trying. Because if I didn't, there wouldn't be any humans left to save. I pressed the gas pedal all the way down and headed east, chasing the rising darkness. I got to DC around noon on a Tuesday. Took me longer than I expected. Had to avoid the highways once I heard reports of incidents popping up along I-70. Back roads were slower but safer. My first stop was the FBI field office. Big mistake. I sat in a lobby for 4 hours before some junior agent listened to me for all of 10 minutes. He smiled the whole time in that way people do when they think you're crazy. "Sir, I understand you've been through a traumatic experience in Iraq," he said, sliding my folder of evidence back across the table. "But what you're describing isn't possible. Have you spoken with the VA about—" "I don't need a shrink," I said. "I need someone to look at the evidence." He called security to escort me out. The Pentagon was worse. Homeland Security wouldn't even let me through the door. I spent 3 days going from one government building to another. Nobody would listen. Nobody wanted my recordings or my notes or anything else I'd collected. By Friday, I was sleeping in my car and running out of ideas. That night, I pulled up the list of research facilities I'd made before leaving Kentucky. Most were government-run, which meant they'd probably give me the same runaround. But one caught my eye, the Communications Research Center. It was a joint university private sector operation that specialized in signal analysis. Not my first choice, but at that point I was desperate. The place was tucked away in an old brick building on the edge of a university campus. Security was just a bored guy at a desk who barely looked at my ID before waving me through. I asked for whoever was in charge of acoustic research and got directions to the 3rd floor. Dr. Eliza Weaver's office was at the end of a long hallway. The door was open and she was hunched over a computer, typing fast. She didn't look up when I knocked. "1 second," she said, still typing. She was maybe 40 with short gray streaked hair and glasses perched on top of her head. I waited. She finally hit enter with a satisfied nod and looked up. "Can I help you?" "I hope so," I said. "I've got something you need to hear." I explained who I was, former Army communications specialist, honorable discharge, now tracking something dangerous. I didn't mention the black fluid or possessed people. just stuck to what I could prove. "I've recorded transmissions that are causing people to act erratically," I said. "It started overseas, but it's here now, spreading across the Southwest." She frowned. "What kind of transmissions?" I pulled out my laptop. Voice communications embedded with something else, something that affects people who hear it. I expected her to dismiss me like everyone else had. Instead, she wheeled her chair closer. "Show me." I played one of the cleaner recordings I'd made. The voice came through clearly. "We are the ones who listen. We are the ones who hear." Dr. Weaver didn't react at first. Then she took her glasses off her head, put them on, and leaned forward. "Play it again." I did. She listened with her eyes closed. "There's something underneath the voice," she said. "A sub-frequency." My heart started beating faster. "You can hear it?" "Not here exactly, but I can feel it." She opened her eyes. "How many of these recordings do you have?" "Dozens. From different locations, different languages." She stood up. "Come with me." Dr. Weaver led me to a lab filled with equipment I didn't recognize. Computers, speakers, things that looked like medical devices. She introduced me to 2 grad students who were working late, then told them to go home. "This is sensitive," she said after they left. "Now show me everything." For the next 6 hours, we analyzed the recordings. Dr. Weaver ran them through various filters, isolating different parts of the audio spectrum. Around midnight, she found it. "There," she said, pointing at a pattern on her screen. "Subsonic frequencies, layered underneath the voice. They're modulated in a pattern I've never seen before." She showed me what looked like sound waves, but with odd spikes and patterns. "What does it mean?" I asked. "It means you're right. There's something embedded in these transmissions. Something designed to trigger neurological responses." She looked at me. "How did you find this?" I told her everything. Fob Falcon, Kelly and Walker, the black fluid, the spreading infection across the country, all of it. She didn't call me crazy. She listened, took notes, and asked smart questions. When I finished, she sat back in her chair. "If what you're describing is accurate, we're looking at some kind of biological response to an acoustic trigger. The voice isn't just a message, it's a delivery mechanism." "For what?" "I don't know yet. But if it works the way you describe, we might be able to disrupt it." We spent the next 3 days in her lab. I crashed on a couch in her office at night. Dr. Weaver called in favors, got access to better equipment, brought in supplies. She didn't tell anyone else what we were working on, just said it was a classified research project. By the end of day 3, we had something. A counter-frequency that disrupted the subsonic pattern in the voice's transmission. "It's like noise-canceling headphones," Dr. Weaver explained. "We generate the inverse wave pattern to neutralize the trigger frequency." "Will it work?" I asked. "In theory, but we need to test it on a larger scale." That night, reports started coming in. Mass violence in Chicago, communication blackouts in Atlanta, weird behavior in Dallas, all cities with major broadcasting centers. "It's spreading faster," I said, watching the news. "And it's following the pattern. Communications hubs first, then outward." Dr. Weaver was already packing up our equipment. "We need to get to the National Broadcasting Authority. They have emergency broadcast capability that can reach the entire country." "Will they let us in?" "I have contacts there, but we need to hurry." We loaded her car and headed downtown. Traffic was bad, people already panicking from the news. When we got within a few blocks of the NBA building, we saw the first infected. They moved like the ones at Falcon, mechanical, deliberate steps. Black fluid leaking from their eyes. And there were hundreds of them, all converging on the broadcast center. "They're trying to take control of the main transmission hub," I said. Dr. Weaver pulled into an alley. "There's a service entrance on the east side. My friend Marcus works security there. We grabbed our equipment and headed for the side door. Dr. Weaver's friend let us in, but something was off about him. He moved stiffly, and when he turned, I saw it. Thin trails of black fluid starting to leak from his eyes. "Run!" I pushed Dr. Weaver ahead of me as Marcus lunged. We made it to the stairwell just as Marcus grabbed my jacket. I spun and shoved him back harder than I meant to. He fell awkwardly, his head hitting the concrete with a crack. I didn't wait to see if he got up. We climbed 6 flights to the broadcast control room. The door was locked, but I could hear pounding from inside. "They're already here," I said. Dr. Weaver pointed down the hall. "There's an engineering bay. We can access the system from there." The engineering bay was empty, monitors showing feeds from around the building. On the screens, we could see infected people moving through corridors, some in security uniforms. In the main broadcast room, engineers sat motionless at their stations, black fluid dripping onto consoles. "They've taken over the main room," I said. Dr. Weaver was already connecting our equipment to an access port. "This is a backup system. It can override the main broadcast controls in an emergency." "Is this an emergency?" I asked. "If what you've told me is true, it's the biggest one we've ever faced." She worked fast, uploading our counter signal to the emergency broadcast system. An alarm started blaring through the building. "They know we're here," I said, watching the monitors. Infected security guards were moving toward our location, weapons drawn. "I need 3 more minutes," Dr. Weaver said. "I'll buy you time." I grabbed a fire extinguisher from the wall and moved to the door. The first guard came around the corner just as I stepped into the hallway. I discharged the extinguisher directly in his face, temporarily blinding him. When he stumbled, I swung the metal canister at his head. He went down, but 2 more appeared behind him. One fired, the bullet grazing my arm. I ducked back into the engineering bay, slammed the door, and dragged a desk in front of it. "Almost done," Dr. Weaver said, not looking up from her work. The door shuddered as they started ramming it. Blood ran down my arm, but the wound wasn't deep. "Hurry," I said. "It's got it." She hit a series of keys. "The counter signal is loaded. We just need to activate the emergency broadcast system." The door splintered. I braced myself against the desk, but it was sliding back with each impact. "Dr. Weaver, we're out of time." "Call me Eliza," she said, reaching for a red switch on the control panel. "And cover your ears." She flipped the switch. For a second, nothing happened. Then every speaker in the building erupted with a sound I can only describe as a scream layered over static. The pounding on the door stopped instantly. On the monitors, we watched the infected guards collapse. In the broadcast room, the engineers slumped over their consoles. Throughout the building, anyone with black fluid leaking from their eyes simply fell where they stood. The voice tried to fight back. Through every speaker, through the radio on a desk, through a phone that started ringing, it screamed, "We are the ones who listen. We are—" Then silence. Eliza checked the monitors. "The counter signal is broadcasting on all emergency channels nationwide. Reports coming in show the same effect everywhere." I sank into a chair, suddenly exhausted. "We did it. We disrupted it," she corrected. "Temporarily. The patterns in these frequencies are adaptive. It will adjust, find new pathways. But now we know how to fight it," I said. "And I finally have proof that this thing is real." Eliza nodded, looking at the screen showing collapsed figures across the building. "Yes. Now we know what we're facing.